Thanks for joining. As Franz already said, we will talk about what a platform is, what it's for, what you can achieve with it, and then potentially also making the case and understanding what an investment is and what's potentially in, and then we can talk about specifics. So basically Q&A style. You have specific questions or cases, then we can go over that. And now I need to find the first button to get that started. Here it is. When I talk about platforms, technical platforms mainly, I usually compare it to cars. A platform is something you should, as a developer or other IT staff, you should just consume. It's not something you need to worry about all the complexity that is in the system, and the same is with the car. You barely open it, turn the key and get started, and you are not required to know all the details, how an engine is working, how the braking system works, and all the other million parts. But of course, you can change things. That's also important for the tech platform the platform team is providing. It shouldn't be like set in stone. It should be flexible, adaptable to specific needs and requirements of different teams, because they most likely are different. And as with a car, you can color it new, change tires, exhaust, tuning, what have you. The same should be true for any technical platform you provide. So if you provide something as a platform, think about, well, the possibility to do changes and allow for changes.
Well, it's not like building you just don't get a car and put it in place and everyone uses it as is. It's like you need to work on adoption and things like that, right? Right? Is it like
you shouldn't force people to use it, because if you force people to do something, you build up resistance. But there should be if you make it easy to use, people will just also start using it. Of course, it needs to be promoted. It needs to be, the value need to be seen and proven with trials and stuff like this. If you build a platform, it's a product. So you need promotion, you need all the things you usually would need if you would build something for your customers. You also need to do it internally. So you could also think of internal dev advocates or what have you, that just walk around and promote the solution, try to get trials on the platform, help teams adopting it, but you shouldn't force people. So if a team is not interested at the moment or doesn't see the value, well, let it go. They might come back at a certain point. Also, if you're at the beginning, your platform might not be feature complete. So there might be good reasons why not to adopt it at the moment. But also, of course, giving the opportunity to build something with you as a platform team, that's also an option. But anyway, usually onboarding takes a bit, so you can't onboard in a big organization all at once. So it's a good thing to not force people, but there needs to be a good reason why not to go onto this platform.
Yeah, and you need to have time to talk to the teams and understand why, what's keeping them. And then also, basically a car itself doesn't help. You need gas stations or, at least power plugs for the new electric cars, or you need service stations that, that will help you if something breaks down and stuff like that. So there's a whole kind of network effect around this where I think if you basically limit your view onto the technology, it's like, it's basically, you can provide it, but then you lose out on where it really provides value, which is, where, all the activities. And I think that's one of the next slides also where you talk about these are the activities that a platform team needs to think about to make sure that the organization takes value of and gets value out of that platform, right?
One reason why organizations are thinking or building platforms and platform teams has still to do with a lot of companies are still into this, we want to become a DevOps organization, we want to go cloud native, this kind of things, and by far not there yet. There's a company called Puppet. Some might remember them from actually even more than 10 years ago. They have built a config management system where you could basically manage a fleet of servers. So consistency and things were already there. Nowadays with Kubernetes and cloud, it's not that much of a requirement anymore. Consistency is still a requirement, don't get me wrong, and configuration management as well, but we do it differently. We have GitOps, we have Kubernetes manifests and stuff like this. But what they still do, and that's also more than 10 years, it's they create the State of DevOps report. This year's report, which is surveys of the last year, so it's almost 1 year back, yeah. So they do interviews, surveys, all kind of things with thousands, even 10,000s of participants across the industry, different levels, different segments, all of that. And then they condense a report, give recommendations and findings on all kind of things. And this year's report, there was something new that hasn't been in the previous ones. That's why I put it there. Please download, and I'm 100% sure you can't read it, but what you can see is there's clearly something on the right, which is considered right. Yeah, that's right. This is not me, not knowing left and right, it's the platform. It's platforms and platform teams are seen as a crucial factor to advance your DevOps maturity. Maturity comes from the Accelerate book that defines key performance indicators for DevOps that are now adopted across many of those reports and things. And what they've seen, and I condensed whatever is on the right, on the left slightly, it's the common thread in everything they do, these teams. It's like they enable self-service across the organization. So it's not about building a platform and then hiding behind ServiceNow or Jira. It's really about everyone should just be able to consume it like a cloud service. Providing reliable and maintainable systems. So it's also about whatever you build, it should have a certain level of quality so people want to use it, because if it's crap, then potentially they could do it better or at least at same quality. So there is no benefit in adopting a platform. And developer experience is at the center. So it's about the whole experience while using the platform, while interacting with the people of the platform, the provider, this kind of stuff. That really matters. It's important. And if you get it right, you're just one step more into this whole DevOps world and cloud native space. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's also related to the question that Stefan asked, is like, so basically the platform team is, around the kind of, how big is the team? But then also the question is like, where is it spread and who considers themselves part of the platform team? I think that's where, you basically have that discussion around, do you have a dedicated platform team that takes care of the whole organization, or is that like, where do you draw the line between like what developers take care of and what the platform team takes care of?
Usually what you find quite often is that the platform team is like any other team growing at a certain point, but it always takes care of infrastructure concerns. What you can find then is multiple platform teams taking care of different bits of the infrastructure. For example, core infrastructure platform, which provides you with compute resources. I'm not going into VMs or Kubernetes or containers, but core infrastructure concerns with all the surrounding bits that are required to just get something on it. Then you might find CI/CD platform team that provides CI/CD as a service, like pipelines as a service. You also might find database as a service. So this kind of stuff, whatever you need and can be commoditized in a way that it's used by many. But yeah, as soon as there's demand, at a certain point you will find, okay, the demand from, I don't know, from the databases are too massive. So spin it out, new platform team, let them focus on entirely that bit. What you get at the end is a true benefit of a platform team and whatever is a typical software engineer is DevOps. I'm not calling someone DevOps engineer, but a software engineer that also takes care of infrastructure concerns, needs infrastructure knowledge, software knowledge, and the domain you are playing in. So, well, 3 things, and usually they are just busy keeping the lights on. So there's not a lot things they couldn't do besides keeping the lights on. If you provide them with something easy to consume, well, headspace, that's what you get. It's reducing the cognitive load, and this, well, free bit can be used for new technology, innovation, new ideas, whatever, new stuff might lead to more revenue, new product ideas, what have you, and self-development. And usually as well, deeper domain knowledge that also helps with new ideas, new development. So basically what you get is more space to create value for your organization and innovation and learning for the individual, which has to do with retention of employees. And less cognitive load is also making people happier, which also leads to retention.
That's a very important subject right now with the scarcity of resources that can really develop in that area, and be able to really focus on getting that innovation out instead of providing what you said is like commodity.
Exactly. So we understood that it helps with your DevOps journey, agility, however you want to call and frame that. We know it's good for the individual, and then in return, it's good for your business. And now we want to build that. And well, the model is quite simple. There's a platform team and there's a product team. They need to work together. The platform team's responsibility is building or providing. I mean, you can buy certain parts and then just provide it to your internal stuff. That's whatever. But they need to always try to reduce the complexity of everything in that space, like infrastructure related, and drive organizational productivity. So it's always about getting better, getting faster, do things differently, but well, there needs to be a return. We come to the return later. And the product team then, on the other hand side, is purely focused on creating value, and value comes from, well, customers that are delighted and buy your service, and they should focus on that. The platform team will then help with adoption, best practices, guidelines, like giving a guiding hand to use the platform. And the product team provides feedback from the trenches, helps with, hey, that's burning here. Can you put that on the roadmap? Like go in interaction. But the most important, these are not silos. I cannot repeat it too often, I guess, but no silos. There are 2 teams that need to work together. DevOps was about bringing Dev and Ops together. This same is true. They shouldn't be separated. There shouldn't be like, I don't know, Jira, ServiceNow. Let them work together. Let them figure out what needs to be done. Usually it's all about engineering and not about tickets. But I know Franz wanted to say something.
I think I think that that's basically also something that I think we can observe, and I think that's where it gets very, very close. Is that in large organizations that are on that transition, you basically have infrastructure teams that are more like trained in provisioning and configuring, but not like the traditional engineers. And I think that's where a lot of activity probably gets pushed onto the engineers and the development teams, because they've got that engineering at least background. What do you need as capabilities to really be that platform team that is highly valued in the organization? What if you want to become a member, what would you say is like the background you need to come from, and the mindset you need to have?
The mindset is a product mindset. You need to understand that the platform is a product. So whatever organization you're in, you might need a product owner and whatever roles you usually find in the product team, you should duplicate it as well to the platform team. It's the same. You need people that have deep infrastructure knowledge. So the things you try to abstract away. So like building the car, it's like you want to build the platform, so you should understand the nifty-gritty details of it. But you also should know the pains of the other side. So it would be nice and potentially even required to have a software engineering background to be able to then plumb it together and make it easy to consume. What I would usually call a DevOps guy, that's what you need. But with the mindset of that's a product, so I need to also work with my customer that might in that case just be internal development teams, but not like I built something and they, well, if they can't use it, they're stupid. That's the wrong mindset. It still happens, but it's more like if you can't use it, let's work on how to make the experience better, because it's still about developer experience. So it's more product mindset rather than, I don't know, what you might find in previous times in a lot of IT departments.
Yeah, I think that transition is very important also for companies to understand what it takes to be successful. Stefan just shared, I like the statement in the Forrester article, the ops professional of tomorrow will be specialized developer. So look at platforms as elaborate software applications which are used by implementing interfaces, same as normal software products interaction.
Yeah, APIs and so software.
Exactly. Yeah, the API-centered approach. Yeah. So basically, you know the way you develop your microservice applications, like the platform is also a microservice platform that interacts with each other, and you need that skill set to basically probably develop it and maintain it and improve it constantly to reduce the toil that you otherwise would have.
Exactly.
Cool. But there are some examples, aren't there?
If you have done it right, then of course you can also share your success stories. There are plenty of them. I only picked two. There's one from Facebook, where I'm not a Facebook user customer, but I guess the live video features that just about I could now stream to Facebook whatever I'm doing here. What's impressive about this is not this feature per se, it's about they only had 12 people building it, and it's used by billions. And that's only possible because they could rely on something that was just provided to them. They could just use whatever the platform team provided. They just used the platform, deployed it there, made it available, and it immediately got quite high usage, and they didn't need to scale the team. That I think is the major theme. It's like scale the systems, but not the teams. You should, not linearly scale with the adoption, the team that is required to run it. So they could rely on stable foundations. Netflix, a bit older company, but they have the concept of a paved path. It's kind of the same. They provide tools and processes to their teams from the central platform teams. They have multiple of them. And if you follow one of the paths, you give up autonomy, of course. You need to take what is currently there. You can influence to a certain extent the roadmap and work together on it, but you will give up on it. So if you like, I don't know, now a RabbitMQ in your as a messaging queue, and there's only Kafka, then you should consider using Kafka because it will make your life easier, because you will, of course, benefit from the increased productivity, because you don't need to deal with the message queue. It's more reliable because they build it for millions of users, at least, not engineers, and it potentially everything is taken care of already, like security, flexibility. And one thing that a lot of companies forget, people move often between teams. And if you use, at least to a certain extent, a common tech stack, the movement and the transition between teams is just by far easier. So if I move from team A to the team B, and both are platform users, at least that bit, I don't need to learn again. I need to learn about the domain, the code base, this kind of stuff. But that's where I feel home. That's easier rather than all the time. Now I need to learn, I don't know, Docker Swarm instead of Kubernetes, or I don't know, database A versus database B, has this kind of stuff. It's potentially harder. Then, well, I don't care. It's the same foundation. So I focus on what really matters to me, the domain and the code we write for that domain and the customers.
Yeah, and developer rotation is perceived as very important, also to keep your development staff on board, so they don't get bored focusing on a single topic and things like that. So that's pretty awesome. I'm pretty sure that Netflix published quite a bit. Is there something like, do they have a book or video on that, or is it like because sometimes it just helps building the case or communicating the cases, to use examples that have done it.
They are sharing success stories, or share technical details in their tech blog, which is quite nice. They are not providing you a business case for building a platform. That's none of their business. But what they do, they have own tooling, they publish, everything is, most of the things are open source, and you will find articles. And as well, I mean, they deal with massive scale. So they also publish how to deal with this kind of stuff, what they've built for certain cases, but also stuff like this, more concepts, how engineering organizations can be structured or how they solve the engineering organizational problems. But of course, they won't make the case for you, but that's a bit stuff you can do by yourself.
Yeah, and I think it's more like, what was their journey, what was their thinking, and what did they basically achieve. I think that's the kind of, if you want to suggest this is the outcome that you want to achieve through introducing a platform.
Quite some articles around why they introduced as well a central platform team and the paved path. You will find that quite nice, but it's of course specific to Netflix, but it can easily be transferred to any other cases because it's a huge engineering company with, as you see, 30% of the global internet traffic is still produced by Netflix. This mass alone requires a huge staff to deal with that. And then, of course, they face challenges all the time. And then each challenge is not only a technical, usually it's shared by organizational, and they share this. As I said, it's quite specific. If you do everything Netflix does, and potentially just starting out, you might over-engineer everything. It's grain of salt, as usual.
Yeah. Cool stuff. We're halfway through the webinar time. So let me push you a little bit in the direction of, now we understood what the platform does, what it should solve, and how do you build the case?
The case usually is built by a return of an investment. So everyone has heard about this. There are basically two things need to be considered. You put money on the table. That's the investment. It's not just about money, also resources required to do things. So stuff you need to buy and people that need to work on it, do this thing, training, what have you, cultural improvements. And the improvements, how does it pay back or make more money, all this kind of stuff. This is the return. When you do calculate it, then you have a value-driven approach and a cost-driven approach. Word of caution, any efficiency gain in any of this initiative shouldn't be used to fire people. So if you come up with like, hey, we might get 50% more efficient in our development or software delivery process, what have you, you shouldn't fire in return 15% of your staff, of course. Well, you would get savings, which can then be seen as the return, but that would be kind of stupid to do so, because then you will demoralize all the others and then things will fall apart. That's just a side note. So value-driven. What's the value-driven approach is like, you think of the value you provide to your customers. So like, can I create more value by my investments? Okay, do I get more products, more functionalities, things my customer would enjoy and then be willing to pay for? Or maybe I just reduce the cost. Can I optimize for speed? Like, can I just be faster, which also can be related to direct cost or at least I can outpace competitors, which also help. Top line growth, as simple, more of the same, just more with the same. And then if you have a platform, we had this headspace thingy, can I, with what I have, with more efficiency and more freedom in my people, get more by new discoveries, new deliveries, new things? The cost-driven one is pure cost, like what does it cost? What cost do I basically reduce? Savings and efficiencies. Both are valid, and we will go a bit into that. The reason why you want to change normally, it's like in manufacturing, you have these 7 wastes. I don't know all by heart, but some I might get. There are, how are they called? In-process inventory, overproduction, this kind of stuff. The same is true for software development. And you look at this, you will focus, if you do, go down the road of, I want to do platforms, I want to improve how my people work, and I want to, of course, have some outcome. So you want to reduce all the inefficiencies. And by this, then you get, of course, faster time to market and time to value. Otherwise, well, just hoping that things will be faster, but no change, that's not going to work. But if, well, usually companies still focus only on cost savings. So how can I spend $1 million and save 3? That's a hard one, but of course, as I've said, with all the inefficiencies that are usually happening across a software development process, that it is possible, but of course, it's always hard to estimate. So it's always individual. You have labor costs, like people that are employed, and then you need to find out in the process to where are handovers, what does work, what doesn't work, what can be improved, and then associate numbers to that. These numbers, then you should average out and see, hey, if we do implement a platform with self-service that kind of works well, is reliable and maintainable, and our developers like. If we reduce by implementing such a platform the outages on one side, for example, like everything can break, but potentially less if you do it well. If we reduce it by 5 or 10%, then overall you lose, you gain on defects. Defects are, well, the cost associated with things that, well, just that doesn't work. If your platform isn't, if your product isn't available, if you're an e-com shop, if the website is down, then there's direct, so you incur direct costs by the site is not down, no one can purchase. You will never be able to 100% accurately say the people will anyway come back and purchase to a later time. There will always be churn in between. So some of them might, and then you need to see like last year's numbers. You know how many downtimes you had, how much it was in total, how much you guess it has, well, the cost has been, or the lost revenue. And then some parts of this you could see as then, okay, let's use at least this part to basically get started with something. There are other things that will improve efficiencies, you improve on handoffs, you will be faster, new features that you haven't thought before. So all this can be attributed to new revenue streams, but the one easy thing is usually you can start with defects, downtimes, lost revenues, this kind of things, and then use a bit of that bucket and say, that's the investment we will use, and then the next year will be better.
The question,
go.
sorry,
Go.
just like, I think the at least the companies I talk to are more in that phase where they can't get enough rubber onto the road, which is like, the development teams are and we're like kind of probably from a sales perspective, you're always waiting on things to be ready. So you can go to the market, capture that market, go out, provide that functionality, make sure that the customers really engage with the service you're providing. So kind of getting people on board. I just remember talking to a company that just a day back that at the conference that basically said, yeah, they want to now become independent and kind of deliver their services, and they can't get enough people. They would like getting engineers working on things is really, really difficult because everyone is searching for them. And I think that I would assume that this could probably be, at least in a forward-thinking organization, the biggest driver is like how fast can we become in delivering new functionality, and what is keeping kind of the developers from developing. And I think this is something where I think the value of the platform comes in, at least in many discussions.
If you are thinking forward, then that's a good case, of course. If you think about, hey, I will reduce inefficiencies by providing something proper, people will be more focused, also output will increase, then you will have more outcome out of a single person. Say, but that's how it is. Then you might lower the demand for engineers because everyone knows it's hard to hire. So if you just lower in a big organization the demand by 20%, first you save costs, so it's cost efficiencies, but also it's potentially more feasible because you can't hire just like you need. So of course it's also about hiring, and it's potentially even easier to hire. If you think of this, in German we have this eierlegende Wollmilchsau. I don't know how to translate this, but this is what companies at the moment, they are halfway into their DevOps journey, are looking for people that can do everything, full stack engineers. Hard to find, rare, super expensive. But if you think of this brain, the two brains I've shown on slides ago, if you need more specialized skills, like you can say, I need a software engineer with minimum of infrastructure knowledge, and the rest is domain knowledge that can be trained and gained. And then I leave headspace for learning. That might be just easier because they are more common. It's more common to find more infrastructure focused or more pure software engineering focused. This full stack, whatever you want to call it, is just harder to find. They do exist, of course, but if you find them, hard to retain because they get offers each day, and more expensive potentially. So it will help you. And if you then also see, hey, I might save on total FTEs, good case. Thanks for that. Yeah, perfect.
Definitely. Yeah. I think, as I said, it's like improving the efficiency and be able to really reap the benefits of the additional opportunity, or considering, negatively speaking, the lost opportunity if you don't go along that path.
And if you only have this T-shaped full stack ones, you might have less of them, and then if they leave, you're screwed. So think about having more specialized people, cheaper and easier to find potentially. And you might need less. You will need less, but up for, of course, specifics. But yeah, out of experience, you will need less people, at least going forward. As I said, don't fire, but hire potentially less in the future. Shall we take questions at the end? Okay.
Yeah, I think we'll. There's also a slide I want to go back to because I think there are a couple of questions that that we could capture there.
There was a simplistic model, like a platform team and a development team or product team. And I said it's as simple as it gets. It's just about this. So my recommendation when it comes to, hey, how to change potentially your organization, your operating model, don't listen to any of the safe, less, however, agile framework consultants. Their core interest is to sell consulting hours and trainings. It is mainly engineers working together, so let them work together. There's an awesome book called Team Topologies. It's a prescriptive model, so it's quite easy to grasp, and it's more than totally feasible to implement. It only has 4 team types and 3 interaction modes between those teams. Anything else you can forget about. So there is no release train, nothing else you will find in all the other awkward frameworks. It's all about flow. So efficiency, making the developer happy by being able to frictionless develop and then getting whatever has been developed into production. One of them, I just realized it's quite small. It's called the stream aligned team. That's the product team. And everything else is a supporting function of that. There's an enabling team. The enabling team could be seen as a site reliability engineering team. There's a complicated subsystem team. These words. The only case I would see this kind of team is potentially like something like a mainframe team or something like that. But they will never sit in an ivory tower, never in a silo, never. They need to interact in one of those 3. I come to that quite soon. And then the platform team. So in this method, there is the platform team as well already in. It plays a crucial role. And everything is to support the stream, which is the product. There's 3 interaction modes. One is collaboration, like helping the team to achieve a certain goal, but never be the blocker. Collaboration. Everything as a service. That's the platform team. The platform team and any other team that provides a service should aim for providing it as a service. Still help with adoption. So you could say everything as a service plus collaboration, but the goal needs to be to provide as a service. That's why that's the interaction model for the platform team towards the stream-aligned team. And facilitating, so helping with things to just get it done. These 3 modes and 4 teams are enough to basically change your IT operating model and allow for fast flow of software towards your customers that will like, of course, new things, better things, delightful things. This book is not super new, but potentially 3-4 years old, something like that. It gained huge traction in, well, cloud native, the people that did and do consulting in that area, organizational changes. So like also I used it quite heavily, the modes and models out of this book at Container Solutions quite successfully in multiple organizations where we did organizational change. So read it. It's quite easy to read. It's not a super fat book. It's 100-something pages. You will like it. Go for it. I don't get tuitions.
Awesome.
So.
Was one to ask. Cool stuff. Thanks so much.